You know that classic movie scene where someone inherits an estate? Like the lawyer reads the will, there's this dramatic pause, and suddenly, congratulations, you own an apartment building.
Right, the music swells and you're instantly imagining this life of passive income.
Exactly. Just sipping a cold drink on a beach while rent checks magically roll into your bank account. It's, well, it's the ultimate financial fantasy.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, if you look at the actual data and the operational reality, especially, insights coming out of active real estate markets like Bradenton, Florida, inheriting a multifamily property isn't a sudden windfall at all.
Yeah, not even close.
No, it is actually a second highly demanding full-time job.
Which is why we're doing this deep dive today.
Hmm.
We're looking at a guide from a Florida real estate services provider, Sell House Fast Cash Bradenton, to figure out the hidden complexities of inheriting multifamily rental property.
Right. Our mission here is to really extract practical advice for you, the listener, on how to navigate the complex legal and logistical transitions of liquidating that kind of asset.
Because it sounds like a jackpot, but the reality is just a lot more complicated. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because to me, inheriting an active apartment complex isn't like inheriting a stock portfolio
No.
or, a savings account. It is honestly like inheriting a moving train. You can't just park it in your driveway and figure it out later.
Yeah, that is a highly accurate way to look at it.
The moment the keys are handed to you, the engine is running, it's burning fuel, and you are entirely responsible for the passengers on board.
What's fascinating here is the sheer psychological and operational shift that has to happen almost overnight for an heir.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, you are transitioning from holding this abstract concept of a family asset in your mind to suddenly facing the strict, unforgiving realities of aggressive property management.
Because we aren't just talking about signing some title paperwork, are we?
No, you are immediately responsible for managing multiple active leases. You have to calculate and prepare for commercial property taxes, which, by the way, do not stop accruing just because the property is in probate.
Right. The county definitely still wants their money.
Oh, yeah. And perhaps the most daunting part, you are inheriting years, sometimes decades, of deferred maintenance.
And deferred maintenance is just one of those clinical real estate terms that masks a massive financial liability. I mean, we are talking about the reality of a 1990s plumbing system that is literally one hard freeze away from destroying 3 units, right?
Exactly. It's needing total roof replacements on a massive scale. It's outdated electrical panels that just no longer meet current city fire codes.
Right, or unit interiors that haven't been touched in 30 years.
Yeah, and this physical reality quickly, and I think understandably, overwhelms people who never intended to operate as landlords.
Yeah.
The asset isn't sitting safely in a bank vault.
No, it's exposed to the elements.
Right. And it is occupied by people whose legal rights you are now entirely responsible for upholding.
Because the pipes really don't care that you're grieving a family member. Or, that you have a demanding day job.
Or that you don't know the first thing about commercial plumbing.
Right. They are going to burst anyway. And like that moving train, even if it is just sitting on the tracks doing nothing, it is costing you thousands of dollars in carrying costs.
Yeah, the invisible carrying costs, property insurance, municipal utilities, landscaping, property management fees if you have a third party involved.
It adds up so fast.
It really does. And this operational stress is exactly why owners of inherited multifamily complexes frequently reach a breaking point. Liquidating the physical asset becomes the only logical path forward.
Because the physical and mental toll of running it just vastly outweighs the theoretical financial benefit of holding it.
Exactly.
So if the heir is overwhelmed and this massive machine is costing them money every single day, the obvious question is, how do they get off the ride?
Right. What are the actual exit strategies?
Yeah. Because if I want to liquidate an inherited apartment building, my first instinct would be to just call a real estate agent and put a for sale sign out front. But looking at the mechanics of the commercial market in this guide, a traditional listing seems like walking straight into a trap.
It frequently is a trap for this specific type of asset. I mean, in the commercial space, the metrics of a traditional listing are sobering.
Just brutal.
You are looking at an average timeline of 90 to 180 days to close. You are committing to 5% to 6% in agent commissions right off the top.
Wow.
And critically, this route targets retail investors, which means it is really only suited for turnkey buildings.
Turnkey meaning properties with high modern appeal that need absolutely no structural work. Right.
Precisely.
Hold on, let's play this out. A traditional listing takes up to half a year and eats 6% in fees. If I'm an heir with an older, say, 12-unit building that has that 1990s plumbing and a roof that's seen better days, why would I ever choose the traditional route?
You're hitting on the exact friction point that traps so many accidental landlords.
It just sounds like I'd be bleeding money for 6 months.
You would be. But many heirs try the traditional route first simply because they just don't know any other way to sell real estate.
I guess that makes sense. They associate selling a 12-unit complex with selling a single-family home.
Exactly. But traditional commercial routes often derail entirely due to strict commercial bank appraisal contingencies.
Okay, I want to dig into the mechanism of that. How does an appraisal contingency actually kill the deal on the ground?
Think about who's buying through a traditional listing. It's usually a retail investor who needs a commercial loan from a traditional bank to fund the purchase.
Okay, and banks are inherently risk-averse.
Very. Before they lend that investor a couple of $1 million, they're going to send out a commercial appraiser and an inspector.
Makes sense.
And if that inspector walks through your inherited building and notes all the deferred maintenance, the aging roof, the outdated electrical, the plumbing nearing the end of its lifespan, the bank is going to pump the brakes.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. They will either refuse to fund the loan entirely, or they will demand that you, the seller, fix all of those issues before they allow the sale to close.
Which puts the overwhelmed heir right back into the exact position they were trying to escape. Now, instead of just selling the building, I have to act as a general contractor for a massive multi-month renovation project just to appease some bank.
Precisely. And remember your moving train metaphor. While you were spending 2 months arguing with contractors and paying for a new roof out of pocket, you are still carrying the daily cost of the property.
Oh man, the taxes, the insurance.
You are still paying the commercial taxes, you are still managing the tenants, and you are still paying the insurance. The invisible carrying costs are eating your equity alive while you wait for the buyer's bank to finally give the green light.
That is awful. So if traditional banks are that picky and retail investors are that reliant on them, what are the other options? Can I just bypass the bank entirely? I mean, I know things like public options and seller financing exist in the commercial space.
They do, yeah. But you have to understand the mechanics of why they operate the way they do. Take a public auction, for example.
Okay.
It bypasses the traditional bank appraisal, yes, but it takes 45 to 90 days just to meet the legal marketing and noticing requirements.
Oh, so it's not actually that fast.
No. And it costs a steep 5% to 10% auction premium, which comes out of your pocket. And auctions fundamentally target speculative buyers looking for heavily distressed assets.
Oh, I see. You are essentially advertising that you are desperate, which drives the final sale price way down.
Exactly.
Okay, so auction is out. What about seller financing? That sounds appealing on the surface, you know. I sell it to someone, they pay me every month, and I get out of the plumbing business.
Well, seller financing can take 30 to 60 days to set up properly because of the complex legal underwriting involved. But more importantly, look at the legal reality of what you are actually doing.
What do you mean?
You are acting as the bank. You are legally entangled with this property and this specific buyer for the next 10 to 20 years.
Whoa. Wow.
If the new buyer defaults, you have to foreclose on them and take the building back.
That sounds like a nightmare.
It raises an important question. If your primary goal as an heir is a clean break and immediate liquidity, why would you choose a method that ties you to the asset for another 2 decades?
You wouldn't? I mean, if I want out, I want out completely.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the alternative that seems to actually solve the problem, the direct-to-investor route. This is where we skip the public market, skip the retail buyers, and go straight to institutional funds or professional purchasing firms.
Yeah, and the operational metrics here are wildly different. A direct-to-investor sale typically takes 14 to 30 days.
That is so much faster.
And there are 0 agent commissions. It is specifically built for properties that need repair or fast liquidation.
So you are entirely bypassing the public marketing phase.
Right, and most importantly, you are bypassing the commercial bank's appraisal contingencies.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because if a direct buyer is bypassing the bank, how are they figuring out what to pay me? Selling to a direct investor seems to be this pure math equation.
It really is.
They aren't walking through the hallways looking at the paint colors or checking to see if the landscaping is perfectly manicured. They are looking at hard data.
That is the fundamental difference in the direct market. Professional buyers operate with cash or institutional backing, so they don't need a bank's permission to buy your building.
So what are they looking at then?
To value the property, they look at specific financial mechanics, the current rent roll, the historical net operating income, local capitalization rates, and the projected costs of the structural repairs.
Okay, let's define those terms because this is the actual machinery of how commercial real estate is valued. Let's start with the rent roll and the net operating income, or NOI.
Sure. So the rent roll is the foundational document. It details exactly who is renting which unit, how much they are paying, when their leases expire, and crucially, who is behind on rent.
Got it. It is the literal lifeblood of the building's current revenue.
Exactly. And then the net operating income, the NOI, is a calculation of all that revenue the property generates, minus all the reasonably necessary operating expenses.
Things like maintenance, insurance, and property management.
Yes, exactly.
So the NOI is the actual raw profit the machine is churning out before we even start talking about mortgages or income taxes.
We've got it. But to understand what that profit is actually worth in the open market, buyers use capitalization rates or cap rates.
Wait, capitalization rates? I hear that term thrown around in finance circles all the time, but how does that actually factor into the math equation for a direct buyer?
Okay, think of a cap rate as the expected rate of return on a real estate investment property. It is calculated by dividing the property's net operating income by its current market value.
Okay, let's do a quick example.
Sure, so if a building generates $100,000 a year in NOI, and similar buildings in the area are selling for $1 million, that market has a 10% cap rate.
Oh, I see.
Direct buyers use local cap rates to determine how much they're willing to pay for your specific NOI.
So they look at the broader market to figure out the multiplier for my building's profit. And this is where the local geography really matters. Like, if we look at the Bradenton, Florida market as a case study from the guide, it perfectly illustrates why institutional buyers are willing to move so fast and pay cash. Bradenton is strategically wedged right between Tampa and Sarasota on the Gulf Coast.
Which drives a very specific, highly lucrative economic engine. When direct buyers look at a market like Bradenton, they see strong regional population growth and consistent seasonal tourism.
Right.
But most importantly, for valuing a multifamily property, they see a highly diverse demographic of active renters.
Yeah, I imagine you have young working professionals who want commuter access to Tampa right alongside retirees looking for accessible Gulf Coast living.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for the math? Why does a diverse renter pool make my inherited building more valuable to a direct buyer?
It reduces their risk. A diverse renter pool stabilizes the rent roll.
How so?
Well, if an investor buys your building and two young professionals move out, they know there is a massive pool of retirees or seasonal workers ready to move in.
Oh, so that geographic demand basically guarantees that the building won't just sit empty.
Right. It stabilizes the NOI.
Yeah.
Because the buyer understands this specific local zoning, the neighborhood valuations, and the demographic demand, they know exactly how to optimize that property once they take over.
They don't need a bank appraiser to tell them it's a good investment.
No, they just do the math, look at the demographics, and make an offer.
Yeah.
And because they're operating with institutional cash, they typically cover all the standard title and closing costs, too.
Which fundamentally changes the seller's net return, right?
Absolutely. When you sell directly, the initial offer you receive is the exact financial amount you walk away with at the closing table.
That's amazing. There are no surprise 6% agent commissions eating into your equity.
None. And there are no sudden demands from a bank to replace a $40,000 roof before closing. By removing the middlemen, property owners actually retain a larger percentage of their built-up equity.
And just as importantly, you are stopping the clock on those carrying costs.
Yeah.
Getting out in 14 to 30 days means you aren't paying 6 months of property taxes and insurance while waiting for a retail buyer's loan to get approved.
You are stopping the financial bleeding and shifting the deferred maintenance liability onto someone who actually has the infrastructure to handle it.
Okay, the financial mechanics make total sense. Bypassing the bank appraisal is huge. But I have to push back here for a second because there is one massive operational hurdle we haven't resolved.
Okay, what's that?
We keep talking about this building as a math equation, but there are actual human beings living inside of it. What about the tenants?
Right.
If I'm selling to an institutional buyer who wants to optimize the property, don't they want an empty building to gut and renovate? I mean, isn't handing over a stack of messy, inherited leases a massive liability for the buyer?
It is entirely counterintuitive, but no.
Yeah.
Direct buyers actually want the existing tenants. Yeah, this is often the most emotionally fraught part of inheriting an apartment building.
Yeah.
You feel legally and morally responsible for people's homes, and you just assume a buyer is going to want everyone out.
That's what I would have thought.
But direct buyers purchase these buildings with all existing tenants and current leases firmly in place.
Wait, really? They just absorb the existing leases no matter how messy they are?
Yep.
Can the heir really just hand over the keys and walk away without waiting for these leases to expire or navigating some horrible eviction process?
Yes, that is exactly how the legal transfer works. On the day of closing, the direct buyer assumes all legal landlord responsibilities. They take over the current leases exactly as they are written.
Wow.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to remember that direct buyers are purchasing based on the net operating income.
Right.
They want immediate cash flow on day one. Emptying a building unit by unit is a massive financial drain for them, too.
That makes so much sense. The leases are the revenue. Without the tenants, the building is just an empty liability generating zero NOI.
Exactly.
Well, how does that impact the heir's legal exposure?
For the heir, it is the ultimate clean break. You are entirely saved from having to navigate incredibly complex tenant legislation.
Because doing that wrong can cost you a fortune.
Oh, absolutely. You don't have to manage complicated, expensive, and stressful legal evictions. And, most importantly, you don't have to sit around for a year waiting for individual unit leases to slowly expire before you can finalize the sale of the building.
Because trying to empty a multifamily building unit by unit while still paying the taxes, the insurance, and the maintenance on a partially empty building, well, that sounds like a fast track to personal bankruptcy.
It is a financial drain that most inherited estates simply cannot sustain. The direct buyer essentially absorbs that operational complexity.
Because they actually have the legal teams, the property managers, and the infrastructure to manage the tenants.
Right, whereas the accidental landlord does not. It is a seamless legal transition that protects the tenants from being displaced while freeing the heir from the liability.
Which really brings this whole scenario into sharp focus. I mean, we set out today to understand the real-world complexities of inheriting a multifamily property.
Yeah, and what the mechanics of the market show us is that while inheriting an apartment building introduces some truly daunting physical, financial, and legal challenges, you are not trapped.
Right, you are not stuck in the conductor's seat of that moving train.
You have distinct options, provided you understand how the landscape operates.
Understanding the specific liquidation avenues is everything. I mean, a traditional listing might work perfectly for a pristine, turnkey property where you have the time to wait for retail buyers and traditional banks.
Sure, if everything is perfect.
But for the vast majority of inherited buildings, the ones with 20 years of deferred maintenance, aging plumbing, and active tenants navigating direct, cash-based acquisitions, offers a completely different, much more practical path.
A path that evaluates the property based on the hard math of rent rolls and cap rates, rather than the cosmetic appeal required by a bank inspector.
Exactly. It's the difference between trying to fix the train engine yourself while it's hurtling down the tracks, or simply selling it directly to a rail company that already has the mechanics and the engineers ready to go.
That's a great way to put it.
It allows you to transition from a stressed, accidental landlord to someone with liquid capital, safely and legally, without displacing the families who call that building home.
And as we wrap up this exploration, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
As you consider the true value of an inherited property, or really any major real estate asset, ask yourself this. Are you valuing the building based on the theoretical top dollar price it could fetch in a perfect turnkey world?
The fantasy price.
Right. Or are you properly calculating the invisible carrying costs of your own time, your own stress, and those inevitable deferred maintenance bills that are silently ticking away right now?
Wow, that is the real equation right there. You have to factor in the literal cost of your own peace of mind.
You really do.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We've unpacked a lot today, from the jarring realities of the accidental landlord to the specific financial machinery of direct sales. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep looking at the hard numbers, and remember, if you inherit a massive machine, you don't have to be the one to drive it. Take care, everyone.